What does Parshat Veyetze have to do with the Godfather? I'm Yoni from Holston Mountain Tours, and this is Pop Culture and the Parsha. Welcome to Pop Culture and the Parsha, the series where I take the weekly Parsha and I compare it to some aspect of pop culture, whether it's TV, movies, plays, comic books, whatever. This week we're going to be talking about the Parsha of Vayetze and comparing it once again to one of my favorite movies of all time, The Godfather. We're going to be talking about the connection between those two things. So let's dive right in and let's see what Vayetze has. Vayetze is a return to one of these really narrative-heavy Parshas. There's a lot of stuff going on, so let's just dive right in and see what the Parsha has in it. We have, first of all, the story of the dream that Yaakov has while he's on his way to Haran, the famous dream of the ladder stretching all the way into heaven with angels going up and down the ladder, Yaakov waking up and realizing he's in an incredibly holy place and calling that place Beit El. We have his getting to Haran and meeting all of the shepherds who are unable to move the giant stone, but Yaakov can do it because he's like the Hulk. But wait, I'm getting into pop culture. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Then we have the meeting of Yaakov and Rachel where he immediately falls in love with her. Then he goes back to Rachel's house to meet Lavan, where he agrees with Lavan to work for 7 years so that he can marry Rachel. And at the end of 7 years, there is a wedding, but switcheroo, he ends up marrying Rachel's older sister, Leah. After that, he marries Rachel, and then he proceeds to start having child after child after child. He has a total of 12 children, if you include Dina, which I do, #girl power. You also have the story of his oldest son, Reuven, collecting the dudaim, the flowers. You have the story of him wanting to leave, and he doesn't want to leave empty-handed when he leaves Lavan's house. So we have the story of his knowledge of animal husbandry, where he can produce the hardiest stock of goats. And we have him leaving in the middle of the night, and Rachel stealing her father's idols in the middle of the night. And the end of the Parsha is Lavan and Yaakov talking about the stolen idols and the deal between the two of them. That's a lot. When you try to talk about the connections between that and pop culture, it's so hard not to connect it because you saw that Hulk thing just slipped out. But I want to talk about The Godfather for two reasons. Number one, because I promised last week that I would. But number two, I love The Godfather so much. So which aspect of the Parsha am I going to be talking about? Well, clearly it's the part where Yaakov meets Rachel and falls in love with her by the well. Yaakov doesn't know Rachel. He doesn't know who she is. All he does is he's hanging around the well talking to a bunch of other people, and suddenly there's Rachel, and he immediately falls in love with her. He rushes up to her and gives her a kiss, and then he finds out that she's Lavan's daughter, and he goes back to ask for her hand. This is so similar to what happens to Michael when he goes away to Sicily. Last week we talked about how similar Michael Corleone was to Yaakov, the similarities between the two. And we also talked about how Michael had to run away to Sicily because his life was in danger, just like Yaakov had to run away to Haran because his life was in danger. And when Michael gets to Sicily, he's hanging around with a couple of guys. They happen to be his bodyguards. And he meets Apollonia, this beautiful woman, and he immediately falls in love with her. Immediately. As it says in the movie, he gets struck by the thunderbolt. He then goes to Apollonia's father and asks for her hand. He does it in a little bit of a different way than Yaakov does. He doesn't offer to work. He just makes it known that he's an important guy and it's worth his time to allow Michael to marry his daughter. So that's a little bit of the comparison between the Parsha and the Godfather. It's not really a big thing, but it's pretty cool because A, it's the Godfather, and B, it's like a continuation from last week's comparison of the Godfather, and I like that kind of thing. I also wanted to point out one other thing that's not really pop culture related, but it has to do with the calendar. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. Some of you might be watching this on Thanksgiving, and there's a debate in Judaism whether or not Jews should be celebrating non-Jewish holidays and the appropriateness of that kind of thing. But I just want to say there's nothing more appropriate than Jews celebrating Thanksgiving, because in this week's Parsha we read about all of the sons that Yaakov had with his wives. And when Leah gives birth to Yaakov's fourth son, Yehuda, she gives a reason for his name. She gives a reason for all of their names, but specifically with Yehuda, I just want to point out, she says, Hapam odeh et Hashem. This time I will thank Hashem. Al Kain Kara Shmo Yehuda. Therefore she named him Yehuda. So the name Yehuda literally comes from the same root as the meaning of thanks. of giving thanks. And Yehuda, as we know, was the progenitor of the tribe of Yehuda, of Shevet Yehuda, which later on became the kingdom of Yehuda, which was changed into Roman from Yehuda to Judea. People who lived there were called Judeans, and after a while, the word Judean got turned into the word Jew. So we as Jews, literally, our name comes from the source of giving thanks. So there's nothing more Jewish than celebrating Thanksgiving. So on that note, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and a Shabbat Shalom. Be sure to like and share this video with as many people as you can, and have a wonderful holiday and a wonderful Shabbat. Bye-bye.